Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the new updates to the Jackrabbit strategy and indicator. That being the ability to limit your time frame for your backtesting and also to be able to evaluate your strategy appropriately based upon the new default settings. Now I've got Jackrabbit strategy loaded. I'm working with XRP. These are the new default settings. That is the Trend Hunter and the Pivot Hunter. As you can see, it shows a modest profit, 14 trades for the 5,000 candlesticks that it is examining. Not too fast, not too slow, very simple. A nice easy way to start and also an easy way to begin learning how to tune Jackrabbit. Now this is the strategy, and you'll see you have now the ability to set the date for a limited scope analysis. Now the one thing that I need to make clear here is that the analysis is limited to the 5,000 candlesticks available for your time frame. If you're on your 1 minute chart, 5,000 candlesticks is roughly 4.5 days. You cannot test something beyond that period. For example, if you wanted to test Black Thursday, that period does not exist on a 1 minute chart. You cannot access data that is physically not available to you. Now, if you went to the 1 hour chart, which is roughly 5,000 hours of data, then you can test Black Thursday. So be aware of the limitations of limiting your time frame. Your time frame analysis must be in relation to the data you actually have available. Now, let's scroll up and get to the basic on-off settings for each of the various mindsets. As you'll see, Trend Hunter is turned on. And Pivot Hunter is turned on. Very simple, very easy, very basic. Nothing else. Everything else is turned off. Now, all of these settings, these control what is actually used. Once you get to this part, none of this matters unless it's been told to be active here. So we're using Pivot Hunter. Let's go down to the Pivot Hunter section and look at the default settings. Trend Hunter has nothing that can be adjusted or tuned. It's self-contained and self-sealed. Pivot Hunter, however, okay, that's Price Hunter. Here we go, Pivot Hunter. It has a lot that can be tuned, like the buy and sell boundary. This is the default settings for Pivot Hunter. Nice and simple. Again, right in the middle, 7 is the magic top boundary or low boundary appropriate to each side. Now, all of this we're going to leave alone for now, but you can literally set it to check data against different charts. For now, this is right in the middle, not too fast, not too slow. I'm going to show you how to take and actually speed this up. In other words, how do you get more purchases and more sales? That's easy. Lower the boundaries. So let's take here. Let's click on this. And let's set this to the very bottom level. Let's do a 1-1 boundary. Now, one boundary on Pivot Hunter is the median, or the swing point. Nice and simple, easy. And we wait for it to calculate, and it will give us new information. Now, the advantages to doing this is very simple. You can tune this appropriate to your risks and your budget. The lower these numbers go, the more budget you are going to need. Now, as you can see, it really didn't have much of an impact. But it did raise the percentages, and it raised the number of trades. And you can see in the background, shorts and longs appropriate to the profit. You can also see it did decrease the number of average bars. So, now we have a much more aggressive system, but let's tune it a little more. Let's take our sell pivots to 2 and see how it affects things. Now, when you take your pivot lines higher, that creates a situation where you set a higher standard for your selling. The more distance you put between your buy point and your sell point, the slower it goes, but also the more profit you are likely to make. So that can be an important factor when you're trying to decide how to balance that out. And as you can see, just by that simple change, we're now up to a 76% success rate, and our profit margin has increased a little. So let's keep going. Let's go up to boundary number 3. And what we have here is we're keeping a fast buy rate, but we're slowing down our sell rate. Now that's going to have an automatic impact on requiring a larger budget, since we're purchasing and holding more before we actually sell it. How much will be determined by a paper trader. We're up to 80% success rate, and we keep climbing here. So as you can see, by doing simple changes like this within the strategy tester, you can actually begin to get your feel of Jackrabbit in a way that is simplistic compared to all of it combined. Let's keep going. Let's take the sell boundary back up to 4. We're going to leave the buy boundary or the buy pivot alone. We're up to 80% right now. Let's see how far we can push this. Okay, now we see we're down to 75%. We actually dropped. Now we went up here, but our success rate dropped. That's important, because that means as this continues in real time, we could end up in a situation where this could easily become not profitable compared to the previous versions. So from the standpoint of this strategy, if I were looking for more trades but a good selling rate, I would want to leave it like this. The 1 buy pivot, 3 sell pivot. So now we see that 3 does well. 3 gives us 80% success rate. It doesn't give us as much of a profit, but the fact that it is more successful will make up for any profit we lose. So we can trade off in those regards. So let's repeat this process with the buy pivot. And we'll go back up to the default settings and see how well we can do in trying to tune that in to be a little bit faster than the default. The default settings pick up a trade once every 3 to 5 days, depending upon the market. Well, this will sell a little faster, but we'll do better with our results. Okay, so let's come up here. We already know it's going to be about 80% once that refreshes. So let's put this at buy pivot 2. And we'll see if we can get a little more profit out of this. Now remember, buy pivot 1 and sell pivot 1 are going to be the fastest, most trades with the default process. So by changing these numbers, you will be getting less trades, but you will be getting more accurate trades. Okay, now we're only at 78% profit, and we've actually gone down here. So a buy pivot of 1 and 3 is actually a faster process and a more profitable process for us to actually work with for this current market. So let's go back up. Change this back to pivot 1. So as you can see, just with only the basic strategy, Trend Hunter and Pivot Hunter. Trend Hunter has no settings. So just by tuning Pivot Hunter a little bit, you can increase the speed of your trades and you can increase your profits. Now I chose the 4-4 because it's a good overall round system. But that does not mean that it cannot be tuned to be more efficient for your risk assessment. That is the big thing, tuning it. And that takes time. Now, you are not working with anything else on what Jackrabbit is capable of doing. So don't go worrying about what's in risk mitigation or technical analysis or the predicator or momentum. You don't need to worry about any of those. Just start with what Jackrabbit has currently working. And the one thing that you can change is Pivot Hunter. Now, the thing about Jackrabbit that makes it stand out is it does have directional time frame analysis capabilities. For example, right now using current time frame, that's the 5-minute time frame. Our source is the closing price. We can change all of this. So let's set this up to, say, what hour? We're going to go to 1 hour. And what this will do is this will let the Pivot Hunter pull information off of the 1 hour chart. Yes, you can actually pull information off of different charts now through Jackrabbit. So we're 80%, 36, and 70. So now let's see if this actually helps it or hurts it. Not all combinations are going to be profitable. some combinations can actually cause losses. So you need to be aware of that when you're testing and looking at your probabilities. This is a good example. We went down 6% for profitability. We did get more trades, but we also lost a little bit of profit. So is that worth the balance? Well, let's go to the 30-minute chart and see if it is. And you will see changes back here. You'll see indicators move around a little bit as I make these changes. Jackrabbit is as much about mathematics as it is about visualization. And that is important as you work with it to actually visualize what you are seeing. And it's just getting worse. Now we're down to 71%. So let's try the 1-minute chart. Let's see if that changes anything. This is why the strategy tester should always be your first step. Because you can do all these kind of crazy combinations to get an idea of what will and will not work before you actually try to set up the indicator and the alerts. As we can see, still not doing as well as just with only the current time frame. Now once I turn this back to yes, this is completely ignored. We don't need to reset it. So for this market, on this coin, and this time frame, right here's our coin, right here's our time frame, our market is pretty much what it is. This is the optimum setting. Next week, it may not be, but right now, this is what you want to set your alerts up for. Simple and easy to do. For Crypto Hopper, just follow your standard alert practices. Same thing with 3C or Profit Trailer. Once you have it, take this information into the indicator, and then from there, make your alerts. Nice and simple. When you're starting to use Jackrabbit, don't overcomplicate the combinations. And there are a lot of combinations, including things I would never even think of. So, there you have it. This is the most optimum for this market. Now we can plan on things like dollar cost averaging. We can plan on things like safety orders. If you're only using a long bot like Crypto Hopper, this is going to be your profits. If you happen to have a bot or a trading platform that supports genuine shorting, then you're going to see your combined profits. Or if you only want to work with one or the other, you can do so. For example, this is a long position, this is a long position, but from here to here is a short position. So don't be afraid to try different combinations. And if you make a mistake and you really mess up the numbers to the point that you can't figure out how to fix it, close it out, and reload it from your favorites. And it will go back to the default settings where you can start all over. Here's where you want to make your mistakes, because there's no real money involved here. Go through this process slowly and over time. And you'll see when it reloads, we're going to get the basic starting point that is not too quick, not too slow, and it does reasonably well in all time frames. That doesn't mean it can't be tuned, as I just demonstrated, but it's a good starting point. Until next time.